It's your active and your attractive host, Teflon. Paid to Cost Podcast. New allegations. They say P did it. He put $1 million on Puffy and Suge's head. I don't know. You know what I mean? Through a proper law, you know what I mean? I kind of think this thing is gonna get him. You know what I mean? They said P did it, so only God knows. Crazy Cost Podcast. Like I said, new allegations. They said Sean did it. He did it. He put $1 million on their head. Keep it Dwayne Lewis. Keep it D. Dwayne Davis. Said through the proper law, they was gonna pay him. You know, I'm gonna brief you on what's going on. You know, here at Paid to Cost Podcast, we look for facts. We don't look at maybes and this. We'll speak about those, but we basically built upon facts. Or credibility. So should I say? And when I say about credibility, it could be the most crookedest person, but in the situation, you have to think about the credibility in it. When I say the credibility in that it's kind of like when a person takes this proffer. A proffer is when you sit down and you talk, you as a defendant, prosecutor and the judge, you go into his chambers and you tell him your story. And you tell him your story about, your allegations, so to speak, about your allegations of how you came to, to get in front of them as an indictment. You telling them on everybody else. Because you as you telling your part, you telling everybody else part who played in it. So with that being said, people, water that down as, not being snitched, but in the situation of a proper, that's not supposed to come back to, that's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to ever see that. So it's kind of highly unlikely that through a proper ruling that somebody can sit there and hear what that person said. Unless a situation like this with Dwayne Davis, Keefy D, where the difference is with him, the only difference with the proper law, where it don't, there, should I say not the law, agreement, the proper agreement, it don't affect it. It'll be it could be broken if you sit out there and speak about it. Like he was speaking about his book. And telling about it. So now they can bring it back up. So that agreement that you did, you broke the agreement. So now as the agreement is broke, now we can come back and get you. So, but that's where Keefy D didn't understand what was happening. Is when he put out his book, Compton Legend or Compton something, and he was speaking about the whole situation, he didn't understand that he had broke the proper law at that point when he was doing his interviews. So not the proper law, excuse me, the proper agreement, because it's an agreement amongst the defendant, the judge, and the prosecutor. And they go out once they make that agreement, that you help them get the rest of the people that's inside this whole conspiracy. So that once they got everybody that's inside that the conspiracy, that stops everybody from going to court. So you're not even supposed to see that. It's not a document. It's supposed to be a sealed document. Like I said, unless you out there and you open it up for conversation again. And that's what Dwayne Davis Keefy D did. He opened it up for conversation again when he was out there, when he did his book, and when he was doing television interviews on Vlad, in different other platforms, So that's the difference in the proper. And I say that to say when he made the agreement of the proper agreement, he told them the truth, because they're not gonna, you can't give them no bullshit and they give you a proper agreement. Come on now, be for real. And that's why I say you gotta look at the solidity, the solidity is inside of it. You can, because certain things he just can't do. He can't just feed the feds no bullshit and they give him a proper agreement. So evidently, Puffy actually did pay, offered to pay $1 million, and all that was, that was recorded, from way back when. But what's happening now is, it's coming to light because the proffer agreement was broken. So now they're like, oh yeah, we can go full light now because everybody dying. The only person still alive is the person that we gave this proffer agreement to, and he already trying to, he called himself a Compton legend. So therefore, we might as well get him now because he broke the agreement, and this is wide open where we could charge him for the murder. Because actually, remember, he said he wasn't the one that did the murder. He told them about everything. You know what I mean? So therefore, I don't know. In some cases, in some states, you know what I mean. If uh, you supply the weapon or you participate in some type of situation where one of your friends or someone get killed and you're the only one that's supposedly can be able to be convicted, I think I'm not sure if that's the case of that, but you know what I mean, he was an accessory. You know what I mean? That will make him actually an accessory to murder. You know what I mean? Because he played a part in it. You know what I mean? He actually gave him the trigger. You know, he gave him the weapon, so to speak. So now, we're gonna hear a little thing, the proffer law, and we're gonna get into a little bit more of this. So stay tuned. Paid the Cost Podcast, loyalty above betrayal. They say Puffy did it. What you think?
Living suspect in Tupac Shakur's murder now implicates Puff Daddy in this September 7th, 1996 drive-by shooting. A recent court filing for Dwayne Keefe D. Davis' upcoming murder trial mentions Puffy 77 times.
What's the difference?
This document has been buried away for a long time under what is a proffer. A proffer is when you close the courtroom and you tell
Look at this. Look at this. Well, mainly what a proffer is.
you're going to bring it. Whether it's admissible or in.
You're pretty much telling the judge what's going on. You're telling them who was caught up all inside this whole indictment. So used to buy 17 birds from B, and B used to see.
If you put it in front of a jury before.
C used to see A, and
that
actually really, you're telling this is just a dressed up way of them not calling you a snitch because it's not
volatile. That
it's not never supposed to trials. So that's why people pretty much take those proffers because
this
because you're not supposed to see the evidence. You're never supposed to see the evidence, so people be comfortable by telling them. The state of motherfucker really
see the light of day. Where Sean Puffy comes is now.
So we're gonna try to get this this thing in here a little.
And we know of 77 times in the murder, the hit on Tupac Shakur. It wasn't supposed to come out. Well, it has. You know what? How did the whole listen?
The East Coast West Coast rap feud begins with the near death of Tupac Shakur at Quad Records, Manhattan. Tupac's invited to record when he's attacked by 3 armed men and shot. Vibe magazine says that Sean Puffy Combs and Notorious B.I.G. were both at the studio and may have known Shakur was being
And fight. Good gravy. And that goes back to forever ago. You know what? Let's figure out what's happening. Straight out to Lauren Collin joining us, investigative reporter, host of the Outlier podcast. And listen, have you? And I believe it's in a cardboard box and sealed up, and it's carted away, and it's put on the bottom shelf of something that looks like the storage room for the Smithsonian. Never to be seen again. This document, Shakur, wide open.
Tupac, and also who killed Biggie Smalls. He was helping with both of these things. So in response to his bail request, the state put out this 179-page document, which is extremely. They are saying, look, Dwayne Davis, look, KPD, if you can be paid for murder, then why should you be out on the streets?
They flipped it on him.
Okay, you know what? Daryl Cohen, a former felony prosecutor, he's handled his share of murder cases. Now, defense attorney.
Down the proper thing.
Daryl Cohen, explain in more simple terms, if you can, what is a proffer and why this document naming Sean Puffy Combs as ordering the hit on Tupac Shakur, $1 million hit, was never supposed to see the light of day.
Nancy, before there's a trial, when there's a trial, we have what's called opening statement. That's when the lawyer says he or she anticipates this is the evidence that's going to happen from their side. A proffer, back up a little bit, back up before trial. This is a document or a video or an oral statement that says, this is why we are here. This is what I anticipate that you guys will find, guys being plural for a male, female, doesn't matter. This is what I anticipate you're going to find. And this is what I'm telling you has happened. But you got to keep it quiet, because if somebody finds out, I'm toast.
Exactly.
Guys, now, in addition to all of the other issues closing in on Sean Puffy Combs, is he going to be charged in the murder of Tupac Shakur? Now, the feds say he has never been a suspect. He is not a suspect. Okay, I'll take that with a box of salt. Let's go back to how the whole thing started.
Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson at elevator bank inside the MGM, and at that time they began to kick and punch him near that elevator bank. Following this incident, Tupac and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party, which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. That's when Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson.
So, Robert Crispin joining us formally with the Federal Task Force for the U.S. DOJ, now at Crispin Special Investigations.
Right after you've been arrested, you do the 5K1, or before you've been arrested, you do the 5K1, which is cooperating with the government and going in and proffering what you know and what can you do to help the government's case accelerate and go further and identify more conspirators, i.e., obviously he then became a police informant. I'm sure you're going to find out undercover calls were there. There were meetings out in New York. There were meetings all over the place, meaning, and we call them chance encounters with the government, meaning we follow you, Nancy, and you go to a gas station and I send the informant in to get gas right next to you. And lo and behold, it's, hey, Nancy, wow, so funny to run into you. And the next thing you know, we start that conversation, or you start that conversation with the informant who's wearing a wire or a digital recorder, and randomly at some gas station.
Yeah, you know what, Robert Chris?
So, like I said, so if you understand the proffer law, you understand that, when you make a proffer, you're giving the government some solid information, because they're not playing no games with you. So you're probably facing 60 years, and now, but you're going to end up doing 20 years, or you end up doing, or you was facing 60 years, or you end up doing 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So the information that you give them is going to have to convict everybody that's in that whole conspiracy case. So everybody that's in that conspiracy, they turn them into snitches. You know what I mean? So, but the whole thing is, it's never supposed to see the light. So once these people go and do their time, you think they solid. You be like, man, these niggas, my boy, he wouldn't have done this time. He ain't telling nobody. But at the same time, he took that proffer where he worked with them. All of them. They take that proffer where they sit down and they tell the government, they hold part of the story in that whole conspiracy. That's how they get them all, and don't nobody go to court. So you're gonna have to understand, what a proffer law is when you think these guys are solid. They pretty actually solid. You know what I'm saying? So, but then at the same time, they turn them into government informants, and they working. You would think your homeboy that went and done some time, 10 to 15 years in a joint, is solid, but he out here still working for the government. You better know what you know, my boy. Right now, we're gonna let you hear a little information about what Keefe D said in his proper statement.
He entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. As they were in the white Cadillac, Mr. Davis took the gun that he had obtained and provided it to the passengers in the rear. As they were driving west on Flamingo Road near Koval, they located the black BMW, which was driven by Suge Knight, and then the passenger seat was Tupac Shakur. And as they turned around, they pulled up near the passenger side of that vehicle and immediately began shooting at Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur.
4 times in the chest, Suge Knight is grazed in the head by a bullet fragment. Tupac Shakur dies 6 days later.
We're going to let you hear newly discovered evidence that says Puffy ordered the hit on Tupac for $1 million. So we're going to get into the segment, Loyalty Above Betrayal. Puffy did it. Well, should I say P did it? I don't know. Did he?
97, the Notorious B.I.G. is in LA to promote his new album, Life After Death. Biggie shoots a video, gives a radio interview, and presents a music award. Scheduled to fly to London, he cancels and stays in LA for an after-party, accompanied by a Bad Boy Records entourage, including D-Rock Butler, Lil Cease, Gene Deal, Tone Jacobs, Stevie J, and Sean Puffy Combs.
Dwayne Keefe D. Davis claims credit for Tupac's murder on BET and in his memoir. He says Puffy Combs wanted Knight and Tupac's heads after their diss track Hit 'Em Up. When Davis offers to carry out the hits, Combs agrees to pay him $1 million. According to Davis, Eric Zip Martin, a New York drug dealer, suggests they have the perfect opportunity to carry out Puffy's hit and even provides the gun.
He
Davis, Anderson, Terrence Brown, and DeAndre Smith stake out the club where Shakur is performing. But Tupac's a no-show, and the Crips abandon the plan. Driving down the strip, they spot Knight and Tupac stopped in traffic. Brown flips a U-turn in their white Cadillac. Davis passes Anderson the gun, and Anderson leans over Smith to shoot Tupac.
Let's make this clear. Just because they said that he ordered the hit for $1 million don't mean, he'll be convicted of anything. You're gonna have to have more than just he said this. You're gonna have to have more evidence that's put him, toward, you're gonna have to have more you're gonna have to have more detailed evidence than that. That's kind of like scratching the surface of what they can do as far as investigation. But to convict him, to charge him with anything, you have to have way, way more than that.
Connecting you to a hit on Tupac Shakur, you're up the creek without a paddle. I'm surprised this guy's still walking around.
I think, Nancy, they're waiting. The magic word here is YET. They don't have enough evidence yet in their view because the feds, you were there. I haven't been a federal prosecutor, but I certainly have been in federal court enough. You know that when they get you, they've got you. You can't move left. You can't move right. You can't move up. You can't move down. There is no movement. They have got you every which way, and that's probably what they're waiting for. And I agree. They're looking for the murderer of Tupac, but more than that, they're looking for somebody called Puff Diddy. They want him, and they want him bad. He's been associated with far more crimes, and they've executed search warrants on the East Coast, the West Coast. They want him, and they want him badly. And then they've got the other videos of him being so kind. And I say that with all facetiousness. They're going to get him, and the word is yet. They will.
Well, you know what, Daryl? I'm not holding my breath. You do know Tupac Shakur was gunned down in 1996, and nothing has happened yet. So, okay. In the meantime, listen to this.
Dwayne Keefe D. Davis claims credit for Tupac's murder on BET and in his memoir. He says Puffy Combs wanted Knight and Tupac's heads after their diss track Hit 'Em Up. When Davis offers to carry out the hits, Combs agrees to pay him $1 million. According to Davis, Eric Zip Martin, a New York drug dealer, suggests they have the perfect opportunity to carry out Puffy's hit and even provides the gun. Davis, Anderson, Terrence Brown, and DeAndre Smith stake out the club where Shakur is performing. But Tupac's a no-show, and the Crips abandon the plan. Driving down the strip, they spot Knight and Tupac stopped in traffic. Brown flips a U-turn in their white Cadillac. Davis passes Anderson the gun, and Anderson leans over Smith to shoot Tupac.
Davis' public claims about Tupac's murder reinvigorate the case. Vegas police search Keefe D's home in Henderson, Nevada. Among items seized are computers, hard drives, and magazine articles about Tupac and his death. After a grand jury home in Henderson, Nevada. Among items seized are computers, hard drives, and magazine articles about Tupac and his death. After a grand jury, Dwayne Davis is arrested for murder.
I can't believe this. Lauren Conlon, it took Keefe D claiming credit for Tupac's murder, not only on BET, but in his memoirs. He wrote about it. It took that to reinvigorate, their words, not mine, the case. There's his book, Compton Street Legend, where he admits to his part in Tupac's murder. What, you have to go on BET and confess to murder before you can get arrested? Man, you cannot get arrested in that town.
Oh, yeah. And just so you know, he was still bragging about it as he was being taken out in cuffs in 2023. But Nancy, I want to point something out. The fight at the MGM, that happened because allegedly Orlando Anderson stole a Death Row Records medallion. These were very important. There were bounties for these medallions. So they were getting revenge on Orlando Anderson. And also, it should be known that Keefe D is not actually in this video.
Put her up. Okay, let me understand what Lauren Conlon just said. Now, Lauren Conlon, O.J. Simpson is a double killer. We all know that. But then after he skated on those charges, he then goes and does an armed robbery and an aggravated assault with one of my old co-defendants that I put behind bars on trafficking drugs, Charles Ehrlich, they get together and go commit an armed robbery in Vegas over what they claim was sports paraphernalia, souvenirs that really belonged to Simpson. And that was the justification. Okay, you're telling me, oh, well, this happened because Orlando had stolen a medallion. I don't care why it happened.
True. I want to clarify that, though. I wanted to just put that out there. And also,
don't
the
care.
feud between Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records, this is also important. It's like the Bloods and the Crips here. These two record labels were at odds. They were hugely competitive. And in my opinion here, I mean, Diddy, you know, he had a lot to lose if Death Row Records did better than Bad Boy Records.
Second verse, same as the first. Don't care why Tupac Shakur was gunned down. Don't care. There's no justification for cold-blooded murder. I don't care who stole whose rap medallion. Don't care. Don't care about their feud. They're all rolling in millions of dollars. What are they fighting about? A vicious fight broke out, and one side vowed revenge. My only question right now to Hay with a medallion or a feud, don't care. All I care about right now is, did Sean Puffy Combs order this hit?
Hey, the Coast Podcast.
Please join us on our. And yes, Shakur died immediately thereafter, according to evidence. Now, the feds insist he's not a suspect. Okay, listen to this.
Within the first few months of the investigation, our detectives knew most of the information I just briefed you on. However, we never had the necessary evidence to bring this case forward and present it for criminal charges. It wasn't until 2018 that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light related to this homicide. Specifically, Dwayne Davis's own admissions to his involvement in this homicide investigation that he provided to numerous different media outlets. Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out to commit this crime.
And he thought he had straight up immunity.
Hearing Vegas Police Lieutenant, that's Jason Johansson speaking, echoing what we heard private investigator, former Fed Robert Crispin saying, that they are looking for just the right connection to tie the assassination of Tupac Shakur to Sean Puffy Combs. Does it even exist? Feds keep insisting he's not a suspect. You know, Daryl Cohen, you ever heard the phrase from Shakespeare, methinks thou doth protest too much? I didn't ask them, is Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, a murder suspect in Shakur's murder? They just keep putting it out there. He's not a suspect. He's not a suspect.
He's not a suspect till he becomes a defendant. Nancy Yogi Berra once said, it ain't over till it's over. And it ain't even close to being over. You just wait, and Sean Puffy is not going to be a suspect ever until he's a defendant. You just wait. Time will tell. And it's certainly been 28 years. So another 6 months or a year, doesn't matter. The more pressure that he is under, the more he is going to start wilting and freaking out if he does what I predict he's going to do. And we'll see.
Karen Stark joining me, renowned psychologist at KarenStark.com.
You know, now we got this sucker, you know what I mean, this snitch protector, you know what I mean, because he's known for, you know, to protect and, you know, sit beside these old snitches, you know what I mean. This he called himself Cash Jones, you know what I mean, aka Whack 100, whack ass. You know what I mean, you know, because he fucked with that what's his name, 6ix9ine snitch dude, and you know, and now, you know what I mean, you realize this Keefy D dude is a snitch, you know what I mean. You know, how can you call yourself solid? You know what I mean, you fuck with all these snitches, you know what I mean, you know. From, you know, reportedly, you know what I mean, he supposed to be putting up half the money, you know what I mean, for his bail. I just can't understand how a motherfucker can call himself solid, you know what I mean, you know, and he always, you know, dealing with these snitches. What's up with this Cash Jones, you know what I mean, Whack 100 punk ass? You know, check this out. Paid to Cost Podcast. Loyalty above betrayal.
This from coming out. Listen.
Clark County prosecutors' opposition to Dwayne Davis's bail mentioned Sean Combs nearly 80 times. They argue Davis should not get bail because he admits he orchestrated Shakur's murder on the promise of payment from Combs. During a hearing, Davis cuts off Judge Carly Kearney to argue his claims about Diddy made during a 2008 proffer agreement should not be allowed into evidence now.
Mr. Craig Hayden had them boxes at his house for 15 years in his attic, doing all kind of TV interviews. He broke a proffer agreement.
Dwayne Davis jumps up and starts interrupting the judge. Okay, to you, Lauren Collin, what happened there?
That was interesting, Nancy. He was clearly very upset and very nervous at what was about to happen. Not only that, Nancy, Cash Jones, who is an entertainment rapper, had already said, I'm going to put up 15% of your bail, Dwayne Davis. And allegedly, this was because he wanted, once Dwayne got out, he wanted him to be part of this television series, this documentary. And the judge also was like, wait a minute. No way, you're not doing either. So TPD, he realizes at this point, he is in a world of garbage.
Cross podcast
of Tupac.
He said Diddy isn't
yeah, that's what they're saying. But in a 179-page filing, it's revealed that Dwayne Davis confessed to Tupac's murder and implicated Sean Puffy Combs. So, are they going to rely on their own documents or not? Listen.
Prosecutors' 179-page filing reveals that Dwayne Davis confessed to Tupac's murder 10 years prior to his public statements. 2008, Davis is charged for his participation in an LAPCP ring, facing 25 years in prison. The LAPD offers him a proffer agreement regarding the 1996 drive-by shooting of Shakur. Davis details the planning, attack, and aftermath of the shooting, down to a confirmation call from Puffy, who allegedly asked, "Was that us?"
Opening us, President founder SASS Surviving Assault Standing Strong, reportedly after the hit, after Tupac's been shot, it took him 6 days to die. This happened in 1996. According to Davis, there was a confirmation call, a phone call from Sean Puffy Combs after he hears Tupac's been hit. And he says, quote, "Was that us? Like somebody else has a hit?"
That's right.
No,
that's right. And this is all in line with how he behaves, making sure that everything's being followed through with, making sure that the directives he gives are followed. My fear is that it's not what you know, but what you can prove. And my hope is that this ties him directly to what has happened to Tupac. Now, my other fear is, with all of this coming out, that people are going to forget the history of Diddy and what he's done, and that this distracts us from the decades of violence and abuse. And I just pray that this is corroborating evidence and that our victims will finally see justice, all of them.
You know, another thing, and you don't normally have this, to Robert Crispin and Daryl Cohen, I think you agree with me, you don't normally get evidence on tape. But guess what? We've got it. Listen.
We'll wipe their out quick, it's nothing.
Who brought up the amount of $1 million?
He did.
Puffy did?
Yeah.
So Lauren Collin joining me, investigative reporter, we are actually hearing, and this is all the way from 2008. 2008. You hear Davis stating that Combs ordered the hit. Explain what we're hearing.
Correct. In 2008, he gave this interview stating, or KPD gave this interview stating that they were hanging out in California, a group of people, they were in a room, and Puffy said, he went by Puffy at the time, "I would give anything for Suge's head." He said Suge, perhaps that Tupac as well, but we all know what happened after that. Now, KPD also claimed that he never got the money, Nancy. He never got this $1 million. Eric Zip Martin got this money. This is very interesting as well. Okay. Go ahead.
Put her up. Put her up. Do I care if a hitman didn't get paid? No. Let's hear the interview again, please.
He said he'd give us anything for them dudes there. He said it in front of all the people. I couldn't believe it. Whole room full of Crips.
So
We'll wipe their out quick. You know, it's nothing.
Who brought up the amount of $1 million?
He did.
Puffy did?
Yeah.
Okay, let me state. It's kind of grainy. He says, quote, he said he'd give us anything for them dudes' head. He said it in front of all them people. I couldn't believe it. A whole room full of Crips. We'll wipe their ass out quick. You know, it's nothing. Question, who brought up the amount of $1 million? Davis. He did. Detective. Puffy did, Davis? Yeah. Okay, listen to the rest.
And bros, Tupac. We like, there they go. Made a U-turn, pulled up on the side, checked every car, see where they was.
Biggie ever involved in any of these conversations about hitting Tupac? Okay. It's always just Puff and Zip.
Yeah. This is all Puffy's doing. Yeah.
Okay, to Lauren Conlon, what are we hearing there?
We are hearing that Keefe D implicates Puffy and says this is all Puffy's doing. And listen, I believe it. Do they really want us to think that Keefe D masterminded this entire thing? I mean, do you hear him speak? I, for one, completely believe that Puffy masterminded this, even though he's not a suspect. But yeah, this goes back, and this could be a big conspiracy to commit
Paid the cost
murder charge.
Sean Diddy Combs' legal team has been notified that he is the subject of a federal investigation. The notification implies that Combs is, quote, within the scope of an investigation, but not a, quote, target. That designation can be upgraded or downgraded as the investigation continues. A grand jury is reportedly hearing evidence tied to the investigation, but there is no indication that any charges are pending.
Similar to what Shannon Henry from SAS and Karen Stark, renowned psychologists, have stated, violence seemingly spills over into other areas of Sean Puffy Combs' life. Listen.
Vibe magazine editor-in-chief Danielle Smith has Combs pose in angel wings to go with the tagline, "The Good, the Bad, and the Puffy" for the cover of the December 97, January 98 double issue. A few days before the release, Combs insists on approving the cover. Vibe denies his request, and Smith later receives a phone call from Combs threatening to see her, quote, dead in the trunk of a car. Her co-workers rush to hide Smith, afraid of what Diddy and his posse might do.
So let me understand this. Sean Puffy Combs, according to this female magazine editor-in-chief at Vibe magazine, Danielle Smith, she sets up a cover shoot for him. He wants to approve it. She says, no, we don't do that. And he threatens that he will see her dead in the trunk of a car. Okay, Karen Stark, what about it?
No surprise, Nancy. This is his response to everything. Think about it. You do something wrong, you cross his path, and he is going to say, okay, you're ending up in the car, you're ending up shot, you're ending up something, threatening people, and he gets away with it for years, along with abusing the women, because he's so charming. Everybody thinks he's so wonderful, but not anymore. It's all catching up with him.
Because he was paying a lot of people off to be quiet.
And of course, what a coinky-dink. The next morning, the Vibe office is trashed. Listen.
The next morning, staffers find the Vibe office broken into and all of its servers stolen. The entire issue is gone. Editors immediately suspect Combs and his bad boy crew are behind the robbery. Luckily, an employee saved a copy to a personal drive, and the magazine makes its delivery for print. Smith says at the time she did not realize the extent of the potential danger Combs posed, but now looks back on the incident unnerved.
What a coinky-dink, right? And remember, according to the feds, Sean Puffy Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, is not a suspect in the murder of Tupac Shakur.
He did.
We stop and remember an American hero, Corporal.
That's the conclusion of another episode of Loyalty Above Betrayal, a Paid to Cost podcast. They got new allegation. They said P did it. So what do you think? Everything is allegedly. So who knows? If he did it, who knows if he did it? Do you think P did it? I'm just asking you. He may have did it. Pac, my boy. I salute Pac. That's my baby. So from the information that I get, and I'm trying to give y'all. I figure P did it. You know what I'm saying? P put that money up there. Because that boy made that proffer. And because he was trying to save his life through that PCP ring that he was stuck into. And that goes to show. He was over there. He was over there doing a lot of telling. And they trusted Keefe D. But what they really wanted, they wanted this whole hookup with this Tupac murder and this Biggie. That'll take them to the whole hookup. Everything else wasn't nothing, but this Tupac and Biggie, man, that'll take them to the next level. So they waited till he was able to tell. They let him make his book and do all that, but they didn't tell him that the flip side of you speaking and writing this book, and then you going around here to Vlad and sitting around with people like Whack 100 and talk to these people. You opening yourself up, to for that proffer to agreement to be broken. It ain't no law, it's an agreement. So however you break the agreement, when you get out there and talk about it, they tell you that. So hey, and you the last one living. You don't think they're gonna make a name off of you now, boy? So he didn't think that they're supposed to see the day of light, because it wasn't. So like I said, that's your active and your attractive host from Paid to Cost Podcast, Teflon. Another episode of Loyalty Above Betrayal. They say P did it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know what you. Yes, that last episode. The new allegations. They say P did it. We don't know. You know if he did it? Paid the Cost Podcast. We just sit out here and try to give you the facts and let you sit out there and sort it out. Paid the Cost Podcast. Loyalty Above Betrayal. That's right. They say P did it. What do you think? Your choice. I don't know. Everything is alleged. You know what I'm saying? Paid the cost, boy. If he did it, you tell me if he did it.